You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 65. Shi Qian sets fire to the Blue Cloud Tower. Wu Yong takes damning with a subtle plan. I am very glad that you are getting better, said Wu Yong to Song Jiang. While you have been sick, I have sent many spies to Daming, and they have reported that Grand Secretary Liang is still very anxious and afraid that we will soon renew our attack. I have also had anonymous posters secretly put up in the city and the surrounding villages assuring the people that they need not be afraid when the Liangshan Marsh heroes appear again. Our hatred is directed against our enemy only, and the creditor will only collect the debt from the debtor. Our army is only for our enemies. Liang has got our posters, which have upset him very much. At the eastern capital, the Prime Minister feels much disgrace because of the disaster to the imperial troops under General Guansheng. Many letters have been sent to the Grand Secretary ordering him not to execute the two prisoners Lu Junyi and Shi Xiao, and that he must endeavor to placate us at Liangshan Marsh that we may come over on friendly terms to their side. Song Jiang, upon hearing this, urged Wu Yong to depart at once to attack Daming Prefecture. Now the winter is over and spring is drawing near, said Wu Yong. It will soon be the Lunar New Year, and during the Lantern Festival that month will be a great display of lanterns in Daming. I am going to embrace the opportunity of the festival to get many of our men in disguise into the city, and then they can cooperate when our men attack the city from outside. A splendid plan, said Song Jiang. I wish you success. It is of first importance, said Wu Yong, that many buildings should be set on fire inside the town as a signal to our men outside. Who is willing to go inside the town and set the place ablaze? A man stepped forward and said he was willing to go. This man was Shi Qian, the flea on the drum. He said, when I was young I lived in Daming. In the city is a tower called the Blue Cloud Tower, and there are over 100 rooms there. At the Lantern Festival the city will be crowded, and on that night I will set fire to the tower, and then our men outside can march in and take the city. This was agreed to, and it was arranged for Shi Qian to leave the following day. Xie Jin and Xie Bao were ordered to be dressed up as hunters, carrying games to Daming, to be presented to the officials at the Yamen. They had orders that at the Lantern Festival, when they saw the Tsuiyin Tower burst into flames, they must station themselves near the entrance to the Yamen to prevent any messenger from conveying the news to the officials inside. Wu Yong also ordered Du Qian and Song Wan to be disguised as merchants with a cart of rice to go into the city, and to stay at an inn. When they saw the fire they were to go to the east gate, kill the guard there, and take their place. He also instructed Kong Ming and Kong Liang to go to the city as servants. They were to act as messengers. Li Ying and Shi Jin were to go as travelers and stay at an inn outside the east gate. They were to assist in capturing the east gate. Lu Da and Wu Song were to be dressed as monks and were to stay at a monastery outside the city. When the fire broke out they were to go to the southern gate and prevent the soldiers from leaving the town by that way. Zhou Yuan and Zhou Run were to stay at an inn inside the town as merchants selling lamps, and when the fire broke out they were to go to the prison. Lu Tang and Yang Xiong were to go as minor officials and stay at an inn close to the Yamen. On the night of the fire they were to prevent messengers from conveying orders from the Yamen. Gong Sunxing was to enter the town as a mendicant Taoist with Ling Jun as his assistant, and to stay at some quiet spot. They were to carry fireworks with them, and when the fire broke out they were to burn the fireworks and make as much noise as possible. Zhang Shun and Yan Qing were to enter the town by the water gate, and when they saw the signal they were to kill Li Gu and the adulterous wife of Lu Junyi. Wang Ying and his wife, Hu San Niang, son Xin, and his wife Gu Deseo, Zhang Qing and his wife Sun Er Niang, were to go into the town as country folks who went to view the sights. They were to set fire to Lu Junyi's house. Squire Chai Jin and Yu He were to enter the town as military officers, and when the fire took place they were to go to the house of the head jailer Kai and arrange for the safety of the two prisoners. All these arrangements having been made by Wu Yong, the leaders mentioned above took their leave. In Daming Prefecture, Grand Secretary Liang had called a conference of generals Li Cheng, Wunda, and Daming's prefect Wang to discuss the celebration of the Lantern Festival. He said, "It is a custom that lanterns are in display to celebrate the occasion in the same as they do in the eastern capital. By this we let the people enjoy themselves with us. But this year there are exceptional circumstances. The bandits of Liangshan Marsh have attacked us twice, and I am afraid that they are only waiting for an opportunity to attack us again. I therefore think it would be better if we postpone this festival this year." "I think," said General Wunda, "that the brigands have all gone back to Liangshan Marsh, and although they have secretly posted up notices, yet I think they have no plan of attack, and that we need not worry about them. If we prohibit the lantern show on the 15th of the first month, the brigands, upon hearing of this, will laugh at us and conclude that we are afraid of them. I think we may issue an order that this year the people are encouraged to display lanterns and discharge fireworks. That we allow them 5 whole nights for this, from the 13th to the 17th, without interruption, and that at the crossroads 2 additional large mountains of lanterns may be built up. The prefect must see to it that this order is observed. You yourself will also celebrate the occasion in order to share the happiness with the people. As a precautionary measure against the bandits, I will lead a squadron of cavalry out of the city to the Feihu Gully in order to guard the town on that side. General Li Cheng may have his men marching about the town to quell any disturbance." The Grand Secretary was very much pleased at this proposal, and after further discussion General Wunda's plans were adopted and put into execution. On the north of the Yellow River, Daming was the most important prefecture. Daming itself was also a great metropolis, and was the center for all government and trade activities. Therefore it was expected that many people from the surrounding country would come to enjoy the festivities of the Lantern Festival. The neighborhood chief in every part of the town supervised the preparations that were being made. The people entered into the spirit of the festival, and there was keen rivalry as to who should have the best display. Mat sheds were erected at all the big houses with festoons of curiously shaped lanterns. Door screens were covered with lanterns of all varieties of colors. There were hung large numbers of scrolls of calligraphy and drawings by famous hands. At the prefect's yamen there was a mountain of lanterns, with 2 red and yellow dragons with lanterns representing the scales and arrangements for ejecting water into the river. Lanterns were innumerable and covered the entire paper mountain. In front of the Tongfu Monastery, there was an erection covered with 1,000 lanterns. In front of the Tsuayin Tower was another erection of lanterns with a white dragon similar to the others. The tower was the most famous into the north of the Yellow River. It had 3-fold eaves, and all the beams were engraved with fancy designs in bright colors. There were over 100 rooms for guests, and every day there was the sound of music and laughter in the building. The spies from Liangshan Marsh duly reported this to the stronghold. Wu Yong was much pleased at the prospects, and discussed matters minutely with Song Jiang. The latter was very keen on going to Daming Prefecture to direct the attack, but Dr. An would not allow this, so Wu Yong offered to go in his stead. Arrangements were made for most of the men to leave Liangshan Marsh and travel to the town by 8 different routes, and they were all to reach the town on the time of the Lantern Festival. Shi Qian duly arrived at Daming on his mission, but as the inns would not admit single individuals he contented himself with walking about during the daytime, and slept at a temple for the night. During the next few days he came across 7 of the leaders from Liangshan Marsh who were in the town on secret service. When the Lantern Festival was near at hand, Grand Secretary Liang issued an order for General Wunda to take soldiers to the Feihu Gully and establish an outpost there. On the day before the festival, General Li Cheng assembled 500 soldiers and marched them about the town. The festival day broke with splendid weather, and the Grand Secretary was quite happy and contented. In the evening there was the full moon in a clear sky, and the bright moonlight made the city look as though it was made of silver and gold. On the streets were crowds of men and women of all ages strolling about, fireworks were burnt on all sides, and everybody was enjoying the sights, which were the best they had ever seen. In the city jail the head jailer Kai Fu told his brother Kai Qin to take charge as he wanted to go home. When he had been at his home a few minutes 2 men came, one dressed as a military officer, and the other as his orderly. Upon looking closely he recognized the first as Squire Chai Jin, and the orderly was Yu He whom Kai Fu did not know. Kai Fu requested them to come into a room where refreshments were already spread out, and there he offered them wine and cakes. "We need not partake of wine," said Squire Chai Jin. "I have come here today to discuss an important matter with you. You have treated very well both Lu Junyi and Shi Xiao, and I wish to thank you for this. As this is the Lantern Festival, I should particularly like to go inside the jail and see my friends there. I hope that you will agree with us." Kai Fu was a government official, and he at once understood that there would be some trouble, and the lives of all his family would be endangered if he refused to do as they wished. So he got some old clothes, and gave them to the two men so that they could disguise themselves as members of the prison staff. He then conducted them to the prison. When the drum in the tower sounded the second watch, Shi Qian took a basket filled with brimstone, and saltpeter covered with paper flowers, and entered the Blue Cloud Tower. He saw that in the rooms were parties of people singing and chatting, while flutes and stringed instruments filled the night with a melody of music. He went upstairs stopping at various rooms as a hawker trying to sell paper flowers and butterflies. He soon met Xiejun and Xiaobao who were dressed as hunters, and carried hares stuck on the end of forks over their shoulders. He spoke to them, "The time is now due. Have you seen anything outside? Just now while we were looking outside we saw some scouts going to the yamen. We expect they are reporting the arrival of our troops. You had better get your work done at once." Just then they heard great noise in front of the tower, and they heard people shouting, "The brigands from Liangshan Marsh are outside the west gate." "Hurry up," said Xiejun to Shi Qian. "Let us go to the yamen now, and do our bit there." Upon reaching the yamen they found the defeated troops of General Wenda had entered the city in disorder. They said, "The brigands attacked our camp and drove us out. They followed us to the gate of the city." General Li Qing had heard the news, and had already dispatched his soldiers to guard the gates. Prefect Wang had taken 100 soldiers to quell any disorder on the streets, and to arrest anybody attempting to make trouble. When he heard the news he returned to the yamen. In the yamen Grand Secretary Liang had been drinking, and was slightly intoxicated. When he heard the news he treated it lightly. When the defeated cavalry began to arrive he became dumbfounded, but at last ordered his horse to be got ready. Just then the Blue Cloud Tower burst into flames, and lit up the whole town in a blaze of light. He quickly mounted his horse and started off. When he reached the street, however, two big men tried to stop him, but he avoided them and galloped towards the east gate which, however, was guarded by Li Ying and Shi Jin. Upon reaching the east gate, Liang was attacked by four big men Li Ying, Shi Jin, Du Qian, and Sun Wan, and realizing that his soldiers there had been overcome he turned his horse and galloped off towards the south gate. On the way however he heard people shouting that a big fat monk armed with an iron monk's staff had got in through the south gate, and was killing people on the way. The Grand Secretary therefore again turned his horse towards the yamen, but when near that place he saw two big men were running amok on the street so that he could not pass. Just then he saw the prefect Wang attacked by two brigand leaders Yang Xiong and Lu Teng who struck Wang on the head with a pole with such force that his brains splattered and killed him on the spot. The Grand Secretary turned his horse again and raced off towards the west gate. On the way however he heard a loud explosion in the temple of the city god. There the two brigand leaders Zhou Yuan and Zhou Run had long bamboo poles with torches on the ends, and were quickly setting fire to the houses about there. There was general confusion in the town, and the people were shrieking and crying with fear. There were fires in all parts of the town. Near the west gate the Grand Secretary happened to meet General Li Cheng, who rushed with him to the south gate. Upon reaching there they ascended the city wall, and went to the gate tower. From there they saw that there were many brigands on the streets with banners bearing the characters General Guansheng, the Great Halberd. In the blaze of light they could see Guanxing mounted on a horse in a defiant attitude. He was supported by other leaders on horseback, and they were fighting and killing as they came towards the gate. Grand Secretary Liang and General Li Cheng seeing the weakness of their position descended from the gate tower, mounted their horses, and went towards the north gate. Upon getting near that place they saw so many brigands in charge of Lin Cheung that they again turned, and went towards the east gate. But that was no better, as there were about 1,000 brigands entering the city in charge of Mu Hong. So they turned to the south gate. But on the way they met Li Kuei and a number of other leaders, and when Li Kuei saw them he ran forward wielding his 2 axes. General Li Cheng went in front with the Grand Secretary behind, and together they cut their way through the brigands. They, however, were attacked from the left by a large number of brigands led by Hu Yanzhua. General Li Cheng fought with Hu Yanzhua, but after about 2 bouts Li Cheng retreated as he realized that fighting was useless because other leaders were arriving. Among them was Huarong, who shot an arrow, which wounded the adjutant of General Li Cheng. General Li Cheng, seeing his adjutant fall, galloped off, but soon ran into another party of brigands under Qin Ming. Li Cheng and the Grand Secretary, however, succeeded in getting through the south gate, having killed so many men that they and their horses were covered with blood. Thus they rode off. We will now return and see what was happening inside the city. In the jail, Squire Chai Jin and Yu He, seeing the fires breaking out, spoke to the head jailer Kai Fu. Do you see those fires? What time are you waiting for? The main entrance of the jail just then was smashed in, and a crowd of brigands entered shouting. Chai Jin drew out his weapon, and breaking the kangs released Lu Junyi and Shirshio without waiting for the head jailer. Then he told Kai Fu, you had better take me to your home, where I will protect your family. This was done. Li Gu was at Lu Junyi's home, and seeing the fires and hearing the uproar on the streets he discussed escape with the late wife of Lu Junyi. They quickly made up bundles containing jewelry and valuables, with the idea of escaping, but they could not leave by the front gate as there was much noise and uproar there. So they went to the back door, and getting out, turned round corners, and at last reached the bank of the river. But Zhang Shun was there, and upon seeing them he shouted out, where is that woman going? Li Gu did not reply, but jumped on a boat. A man on the boat, however, caught hold of him, and called out, Li Gu. Do you recognize me? Li Gu recognized Yan Qing by his voice, and replied, younger brother, we are not enemies. Let me go. But Yan Qing did not reply. He took Li Gu, and Zhang Shun took the woman, to the east gate as prisoners. This had just happened when Lu Junyi arrived at his home. As he could not find Li Gu and his wife at once, he gave orders that all his movable wealth was to be packed and placed on carts to be conveyed to Liangshan Marsh. Head jailer Kai Fu also packed up his things and got his family ready to start for Liangshan Marsh. He then addressed Squire Chai Jin, I request you to use your influence to spare the lives of the people in the city. Squire Chai Jin agreed to this and went to see Wu Yong about it. Wu Yong concurred and issued orders to that effect, but a great many people had already been killed or wounded. It was now daybreak, and Wu Yong gave the signal for his men to assemble. Grand Secretary Liang and General Li Cheng happened to meet with General Wenda as they fled from the town. They had not gone far, however, before their progress was stopped by a party of brigands blocking their way. Pardoned man again arrested. Vile disease returns again.